Hello and welcome to Westman This Week for April 11th. I'm John Lopez, and here's what we got coming up in today's show. The sun is shining, the ice cream is flowing, and the fight is on for your dessert dollars. A tragedy unfolding on a tropical island. A roof collapse leaves hundreds and dead and missing. And the truck versus train, who will win? All that, more on this edition of Westman This Week. The cold winter is coming to an end. Post-secondary students are ready for that sweet summer freedom. Only one thing stands in their way: final exams. Our Kira Stephen has more.
April is Stress Awareness Month, likely because university and college students are doing finals.
I'd say at the end of the school year, it's kind of just like, I feel like there's always so much to do and it never feels like there's enough time to do it.
Around 11,000 students are enrolled in post-secondary education in Brandon, 20% of the population. That casts a cloud of stress over the community.
You kind of get halfway through the semester and then it's like almost ended and you're like, oh wait, there's barely anything left.
Let me introduce you to the stress cycle. First, something motivating has to happen, like a due date on an upcoming assignment. Then that causes a reaction, often stress. The only way to complete the cycle is by meeting that deadline. And the way that we have breakdowns is when multiple cycles have opened up.
So when we complete the stress cycle, we're giving our system, our nervous system and our body and our mental body and emotional body and spirit body a little bit more space to digest our day and then more capacity for what's to come.
When school is busy, it often becomes the top priority, making students disregard their own well-being. Professor Allison McCullough always reminds her students to take care of themselves.
The running joke with my students is I'm always reminding them to eat their vegetables and to take care of themselves, right? So getting sleep, eating healthy, finding time to do things outside of school as well to sort of have that sort of full experience, so it's not just all work all of the time.
I also just have to make sure I have time for myself to do things that I enjoy, that fulfill me, that are unrelated to school.
For now, Leach says she's focused on preparing for her final exams and assignments. It's only one more push until summer break can start. Kira Stevens, Westman This Week, Brandon.
Construction crews in Brandon are literally hitting the pavement. An intersection is being replaced by a roundabout. Nolan Yons is at the scene.
I'm here at First Street in Maryland, where the four-way stop would be turned into a roundabout. The city says the reason for this change is for the recent complexes built on the west side. Construction will continue throughout the summer months, with completion expected to be fall of 2025. The first phase of construction will be focused on the east side of the roundabout until the school summer break begins. Traffic flow through the intersection will be maintained during the first phase. Delay to motorists can be expected during school peak hours. This four-way will be fully closed from June 30th to December 1st to allow completion on the roundabout. I'm Nolan Yons from Westman This Week, Brandon.
Pigs are a common sight on Manitoba farms, but it's not all sunshine and smoked bacon in the Westman area. Roaming bands of wild dogs and invasive species are not your friendly pink poker. For residents, they are resident pests, even dangerous. Here's Awen McFarland with more.
A government-funded campaign, Squeal on Pigs, has spearheaded the efforts of controlling the pig population. Now, 4 years after its launch in February of 2022, we asked Wayne Lee, program coordinator for Squeal on Pigs Manitoba, about the effectiveness of the Squeal on Pigs campaign and the tools they use.
We've removed over 200 last year. And so I think we're making a dent in the population, and we're really trying to hit the hot spots. We have a pretty extensive media outreach campaigns where we ask the public to report a sighting of a wild pig. And so once we get sighting reported, either on our website or through our toll-free telephone number, then our technician will actually contact the person who reported the sighting, gather more information, and then they go out to where the pig was sighted, and they'll talk to all the landowners in that area. If it looks like there have been wild pigs in that area, then our field technicians go out and they'll try to identify where they are, and then they'll set up a baiting station to see if pigs can be attracted. And they'll use a trail camera then to see if pigs actually come to the area. And once that happens, then they'll set up a trap and try to trap the pigs. Our program is geared towards finding them and getting rid of them. Trapping doesn't scatter them like hunting does. We've determined that, if people come across a group of pigs, on average, they might get just one or two out of the group. Whereas when we trap pigs, we try to get the whole group. And so we've been using a lot of new science to try to understand the wild pig problem and try to eliminate them.
Science also plays a role. James Hood of Assiniboine College is working on a method using environmental DNA to aid in the control efforts.
What we do is we pump water through a pump system like this, and we're pumping the water and then collecting it on a filter, something like this. We have different kinds of filters we use. This is one of the smaller ones. But basically the pump sucks water through this and it accumulates material on this kind of white filter there. So then we take that, we preserve it, take that filter to the lab and do an extraction of the material off the filter. If we can match the presence of that sequence of DNA from what we pull off the filter to what we find in what we call a primer, then we know that that DNA existed on this filter, and then we can trace it back to know that it was found in the environment. If we can tell where they are and where they are not, then we can do control activities more effectively. So we don't have to then waste time looking for pigs in places that we know they are not. We can focus on them in places where we suspect they might be. So what we did is kind of a controlled experiment. We put a piece of pork tenderloin in the river and then measured how far and for how many days we could see that DNA signature in the water. And we were able to detect it after a week, 16.6 kilometers downstream. So if we can continue to do that, it suggests it would be a good way to do this screening. But I will say, as a researcher, this is still quite preliminary. That was our best result. So we're still working on trying to make this a faster and more efficient system.
With over 200 caught and culled last year by the program and scientific research to boost, the Squeal on Pigs campaign holds a positive outlook on the wild pig population control.
Our trapping numbers are going up, which tells me that we're becoming more effective.
For Westman This Week, I'm Awen.
With spring here and warmer temperatures on the way, ice cream wars are kicking up again in Brandon. Here's Josh Bundles-Luce for more.
Dairy Queen has been in Brandon since 1954. They rolled the ice cream market in the winter as one of the few places open during the colder months. But when the snow starts to melt, competition becomes more intense.
Competition is very healthy. You really don't think you're ever going to be the only one in town. But there is only so much it can handle in a market. The market dictates most ability for everyone to succeed.
When the temperature rises above freezing, Velvet Dip swoops in.
We grew up in Carberry, but visiting from Alberta, and so here just to enjoy some summer weather and love the Velvet Dip.
In the summer, two times a week at least.
Velvet Dip has also been around for a while, and the manager had this to say about the competition with Dairy Queen.
Definitely like competition, of course, because Dairy Queen's like such a well-known name, but we have different products.
Dairy Queen also has its devoted fans. They have the whole year to enjoy their ice cream. Statistics show that on average, Canadians spend $60 per person on ice cream every year. Places like Dairy Queen want a taste of that money. For Westman This Week, I'm Josh Vandersloos, Brandon.
A non-profit organization in Brandon is holding its annual fair trade show of Asian and Middle Eastern rugs. The products are made in developing nations, and all profits go towards improving the lives of communities. Erica Brake has the details.
Brandon's 10,000 Villages will be hosting a fair trade rug show from April 10th to May 10th. The nonprofit store prioritizes ethically sourced and created goods.
Our purpose is to provide artisans from the global south, developing countries, with a marketplace for their goods. Because a small organization, mostly run by women, cannot bring goods to Canada economically.
The rugs come from Bunyad, a business that ensures the artisans from the almost 1,000 families they partner with are compensated fairly for their work. This steady and reliable source of income helps uplift and improve the communities they and their families live in. The show features over 200 rugs from many countries in Asia and Africa. The rugs can take multiple years to be made and are hand-knotted and dyed.
We wanted to let the customer know, the people know that there is this artisan group. They do the rugs and they prepare the rugs and cherish the beautiful rugs and the art behind it and support them.
The store will be holding an opening reception on April 14th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. There will be live music and refreshments from local businesses. The reception is also a great opportunity to hear about the stories from the artisans who make each rug. Erica Brake, Westman This Week, Brandon.
A new photography exhibit in downtown Brandon is shining a spotlight on the people who can make the Wheat City what it is. Our Jennifer Klein has more on the powerful portraits and the museum behind the exhibit.
We Are Brandon is now on display in one of Brandon's museums and is ready to be seen. Tucked in the heart of downtown Brandon, the Brandon General Museum and Archives is a small but mighty institution dedicated to preserving the stories and characters of the city. From local artifacts to archival photos, the BGMA captures Brandon's evolution, and this month it's highlighting the people at the center of that story.
This is the Brandon General Museum and Archives. This museum is dedicated to the history of Brandon and the Westman area, and we have lots of items in here. We try to do a lot of in-person events, to get people to come to the museum. So we do a monthly speaker series where people come. It's called Show and Tell. It's where they're talking about something that inspires them or something that they're passionate about that has to do with the history of Brandon as well. And our next Show and Tell event is on Saturday, and that's going to be with Wei Shen, who's the photographer with the We Are Brandon exhibit. And so she's going to be talking about her passion of photography and how she got into it and that sort of thing.
We Are Brandon, a photo series by local artist Wei Chan Zhang, features stunning portraits of residents from all walks of life.
The name is We Are Brandon. When I came here, I researched online and I found that there have 50,000 people living here, and I'm really interested about them, the stories and who they are.
Zhang's passion for this project is shown through her work as she will continue to capture the history of Brandon that happens every day.
But about We Are Brandon, I want to say I will keep on this project a long time because I really want to make this program is bigger and bigger because even though there have a lot of the from another city, they will use this program to know who live here.
There will be an opening reception on April 11th from 7 to 9 p.m. and an artist talk the following day at 2 p.m. I'm Jennifer Klein for Westman This Week, Brandon.
Mecca Production is putting on their latest show in Brandon this weekend. The actors are hoping the audience will be left to say, "Mamma Mia!" Our Stephen Whitehead has more.
The hit musical Mamma Mia returns to Brandon this weekend. It's been hosting audiences for over 25 years, and the community support is among the most important factors.
You know, it's a lot of sweat equity that goes into these shows. Nobody gets paid. Everybody does it because they love to do it. So, so supporting community theater, supporting the arts, I think is critical.
So support these local actors because the community support is hopefully appreciated. This musical, having hits from ABBA and taking place on a Greek island paradise, is an amazing story of love and change. But what do they think makes the story so compelling?
In 2024, ABBA was my #1 played artist of the year, so it was just kind of natural for me to want to be in Mamma Mia because it's all ABBA songs.
Tickets to this great show start at $45, but range in price for students, seniors, and children. So come down to see the show at the Western Manitoba Centennial Auditorium any day between Thursday and Sunday this weekend. Stephen Whitehead, Westman This Week, Brandon.
The 2025 federal election is just 3 weeks away. Starting this week, our Sophia Frolova brings you all the election-related news. Here's Sophia.
Hello and welcome to the election countdown for April 11th. I'm Sophia Frolova, and in the next 3 weeks prior to the 2025 federal election, we'll be scooping up the latest political news, getting you all the accurate information you need to make your vote count. So let's get into it. We start with a potential attempt of meddling in the election. On Monday, Canadian officials said a popular news account on WeChat, Chinese social media, was pushing disinformation about the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. The government's Privy Council office said the account had targeted Carney's experience and credentials in a bid to manipulate Chinese voters. The reports linked the disinformation attempt to the Chinese Communist Party. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Ottawa said they were unaware of any information operation. The race is now at its midpoint. The political parties are trying to find official candidates for each Manitoba riding. Many are entering at the last minute. Dan Messier, the incumbent Conservative MP for Riding Mountain, was the sole confirmed candidate on the election ballot until earlier this week. Meanwhile, unless there are last-minute approvals, the People's Party of Canada will not be running candidates in Brandon-Souris or Winnipeg West. The Green Party is also sitting out in 4 ridings, including Brandon-Souris. We will bring you more information on Westman candidates next week. The federal party leaders are started knocking on the Western Canada's door. Ex-Prime Minister Stephen Harper endorsed the federal Conservative leader by saying Pierre Poilievre is the best candidate for a better, stronger, and more united future. During a recent rally in Edmonton, the Tories gathered over 10,000 people. It's one of the largest campaign events in Canadian history. Meanwhile, Liberal leader Mark Carney held his own rally in Richmond, British Columbia. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs has outlined First Nations priorities for the 2025 federal election. AMC says federal candidates must prioritize clean water, housing, healthcare, and economic reconciliation. The AMC has called for concrete commitments ahead of the April 28th vote. So whether it's your first time heading to the polls or it's not your first rodeo, there are some things you need to know. In this segment, we'll review the party platforms on essential issues, how the Canadian electoral system works, and what you need to know heading to the polls. To win voters across the country, candidates release a flurry of promises to address some of the hot-button issues. Let's review some of the key promises on housing, health, and economy. On housing, the Liberals Party promised to invest in affordable housing, creating incentives for developers to build more homes. The Conservatives are focusing on reducing the cost of new homes by eliminating the GST on properties under $1 million. Meanwhile, the NDP proposes investing in public housing and creating a national plan to address housing affordability. On health, the Liberals aim to enhance mental health services and expand healthcare funding. The Conservatives plan to offer more options for private healthcare while ensuring universal access. The NDP emphasizes universal pharmacare and dental coverage as essential services for all Canadians. On economy, the Liberals plan to continue with economic support programs, including investment in green technologies and digital infrastructure. The Conservatives focus on lowering taxes and cutting government spending to reduce the national deficit. The NDP promises to increase support for working Canadians, proposing a wealth tax on the richest. And just before we go, here's the latest update on where the parties stand at the polls. Current national polls indicate the Liberals leading with 43% support, making a 4-point advantage over the Conservatives, who stand at 37%. The NDP holds 9%, while the Bloc Québécois and Greens have 5% and 2% respectively. This represents a significant shift from earlier in the campaign, where the Conservatives had a slight lead. And that's all the time that we have for our election countdown. Join us to result coverage on April 28th on WCG TV. Back to you, John.
That's Sophia. As you mentioned, we're hosting a live election night broadcast on April 28th. We hope you all join us at 7:30 p.m. as we watch the vote come in. Now, coming up after the break, Matt has all your international news. Stay with us.
It's been a tumultuous week internationally. We start in the Dominican Republic. The legendary Jet Set Club in Santo Domingo was packed with musicians, professional athletes, and government officials when dust began falling from the ceiling and into people's drinks. Minutes later, the entire roof collapsed. Concrete slabs killed more than 200 people and trapped dozens of others on a dance floor where hundreds had been dancing to a lively merengue concert early Tuesday. More than 200 other people were injured. The search for more victims has been ended. So far, only 32 people have been identified in one of the worst disasters to hit the Dominican Republic. President Donald Trump has ordered a 90-day pause on new tariffs except for China. Trump authorized the pause Wednesday afternoon. He also raised tariff rates on China to 125%, citing what he called Beijing's lack of respect. The move comes after China announced retaliatory tariffs on the United States. The president says he's lowered the reciprocal tariff rate on all countries to 10%. He also says more than 75 countries have reached out to the U.S. in recent days to negotiate trade deals. The Treasury Secretary says the 90-day pause will provide time to get those deals done. Tariffs are making Apple reconsider how it does business. People familiar with Apple's thinking say the company plans to send more iPhones to the United States from India. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. It would help Apple avoid the higher tariffs the president is slapping on China. Right now, the president's tariff package hits China with a 54% rate, while India's goods are lower at 26%. The iPhone is Apple's signature product. It makes up about 50% of its revenue. So Apple may temporarily change course and rely more on India. But even if that change does occur, producing iPhones in India would only meet about 50% of US demand for the device this year. Meanwhile, in the U.S., the suspects in a mass shooting in northeastern Virginia are in police custody. That's according to the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office Wednesday morning. Not many details about what happened are known. Deputies say 3 victims were fatally shot at the scene Tuesday, while 3 other people were taken into the hospital with gunshot injuries. One car had been shot more than a dozen times. Deputies have not identified any of the victims. That's a look at international headlines. Please stay tuned. After the break, we will look at what's happening in Westman this weekend.
Hello, and welcome to the Weekender for April 11th. I'm Erica Brake. Here's what's happening in and around Westman. The Victoria Inn will be hosting Assiniboines Achievement Awards tonight. Come support the students and the athletes. Doors open at 6 p.m. with the awards presentation at 6:30. Tickets are $25 and can be purchased at the Victoria Avenue East campus. Mecca Productions is ready to hit the WMCA stage once again. They will be performing the musical Mamma Mia. The show kicked off yesterday, but there are still 3 more performances to catch. Tonight at 7:30, a Saturday matinee at 2 p.m., and later that night at 7:30. Tickets range from $29 to $44. Who doesn't like a good fish fry? The Rivers and Area Lions Club is celebrating its 50th anniversary with a pickerel fry fundraiser this Sunday, April 13th at the Riverdale Community Complex. The meal is served from 4:30 to 6:30. The cost for adults is $25, ages 7 to 12, $15, kids 6 and under are free. This Saturday at the Riverbank Discovery Center, the Westman Immigrant Services Easter egg hunt is on. The hunt will begin at 11 a.m., but will be open from 10 to 1 with games, crafts, and face painting available. Registration is required beforehand. Brandon's annual Home and Leisure Show will be taking place at the Keystone Center this weekend. The latest in home improvement, outdoor living, and more will be on display. The show is on 1 to 7 p.m. on Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday, and 12 to 5 p.m. on Sunday. Admission is $5 for adults and free for children 14 and under. This Friday at 6:30 p.m., the Royal Canadian Legion No. 3 is hosting a pulled pork and trivia night. Everyone is welcome to attend. Entrance is $5 only, and for the pulled pork and trivia, it is $12. Food will be served at 6:30 p.m. Matt Corey is back at the Lady of the Lake on the 11th from 8 to 10 p.m. with his signature sound and energy. This time, he is being joined on the stage by Craig Metrick. Get ready for an unforgettable night of soulful melodies and pure musical magic. Tickets are $12 online, or you can skip the middleman and get them at the door. Assiniboine College's own Mike Lamb hits the stage at the 40 with his band, the 8-Track Shuffle. Shows are on April 11th and 12th, and there is a $10 cover at the door. Don't forget your ID and go support Mike and the boys. For our movie lovers, The Amateur is playing at Landmark Cinemas. This is an action-packed movie about a CIA decoder whose life is turned upside down when his wife is killed in a terrorist attack. He takes matters into his own hands to get revenge. Also at Landmark Cinemas, Warfare is playing on the big screen. This enticing drama follows the story of a platoon of Navy SEALs embarking on a dangerous mission in Iraq. Check landmarkcinema.com for more information. At the Evans Theatre, The Seed of the Sacred Fig is playing. This crime drama is about a judge who grapples with paranoia and political unrest in Tehran. When his gun disappears, he suspects his own family, straining the relationships as society begins to crumble. Showtimes are 7:30 Friday and Saturday. Turning to the weather is supposed to get significantly warmer this weekend. On Friday, you can expect a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 17 and a low of 5. But the nice weather doesn't stop there. On Saturday, we will have a mix of sun and cloud again, but with a high of 16 and a low of 3. But on Sunday, things will cool down a little with a chance of showers. We can expect a high of 8 and a low of -3. Overall, the weekend will be fairly nice, so make sure to get on out there and enjoy the spring weather. That's all the time we have for the Weekender. Stay tuned, and we will be right back after a short break.
That's almost a wrap for today's show. But first, let's end with a look at some of the more incredible news of the week. Here's CNN's Jim Rowbottom.
In an epic flash of grain, a freight train split a trailer in half in rural Minnesota after the semi pulled into its path. No one was seriously hurt. The trailer, which was carrying livestock feed, is a total loss, and the train engine was damaged. The crossing does not have crossing arms or signal lights, just stop signs. The trucker at the wheel was ticketed for a misdemeanor railroad crossing violation and a petty misdemeanor for disobeying a traffic control device. We don't know exactly what caused the mishap, but we just have to point out that the name of the town is Sleepy Eye. In a completely unrelated story, 3D mapping is revealing some of the secrets of the infamous prison island of Alcatraz. VCTO Labs used a $100,000 drone, a robot dog, and cutting-edge laser technology. The drone explored sewer lines, cisterns, and the power plant smokestack at the former prison off the coast of San Francisco. The mapping revealed parts of Alcatraz that haven't been seen in more than a century. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jim Rowbottom.
Thanks for joining us. On behalf of all of us from Assiniboine College, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.